Now, moving on to our Talking Pints section, where we bring somebody in every day to talk to them about their life and what they care about and what matters and what they're up to and what they're doing next. And today we have got Ann Widdecombe joining me on Talking Pints. Cheers, Ann.
Cheers.
Now,
Brexit.
To Brexit. And of course, we were colleagues. We were colleagues in the Brexit Party. We spent time together in the European Parliament. In fact, I won't forget, it was Easter Saturday, 2019, Easter Saturday. And because we were supposed to leave on March the 29th,
Indeed.
and Theresa May had said 108 times, we're leaving on March the 29th. We woke up on March the 30th, we hadn't left. And suddenly it occurred to people we might have to fight a European election because we were still in the EU. And I was in the office, brand new party, trying to get it off the ground, Easter Saturday, sitting in the office, and I got this phone call. You see. And I picked up the phone, and, hello, Ann Widdecombe here. So I stood to attention, obviously. Well, it's true. Well, it's almost true. And you asked me whether we wanted candidates, and I think you were absolutely infuriated at the promises that had been made and not delivered. And, of course, you got elected to the European Parliament, and we had a fine time working together.
Oh, we had a great time.
And I think we achieved quite a bit. So that was tremendous, and I love working with you. And you've got an amazing work ethic, which I saw. And kind of we won, didn't we, in a way?
Well, you won. Over 25 years, you fought very hard for Britain to leave the EU. You've never been in Parliament. You did it all from outside Parliament. So you won, Nigel. Well done. Well,
I did what I did from the European Parliament, which oddly gave me a bigger platform, I think, in some ways, than I might have had in Westminster, because being a group leader and all of those things. But, Anne, I know, having worked with you, and I want the viewers to understand, if I'm right, I think the single thing about you that I've always understood, and why I use the word redoubtable about you, is that you have a certain conviction in what you believe. You think things through. But with you, it all goes back to first principles. And I think that's Christian faith, isn't it?
It certainly is, yes. I mean, a lot of my views are a direct result of that, but others aren't. And people very often think, I believe this because I'm a Catholic. In fact, I always did believe it. Some are directly the consequence of faith, some aren't. But underlying my life, yes, is that Christian faith.
And, of course, a very patriotic upbringing. Your father in the services and Plymouth and the Navy and all of those things. What was it? I mean, you first got elected to Parliament in 87, I think.
Correct.
So that's a few years ago now. Because there weren't that many women in the Conservative Party in Parliament then, were there?
No, indeed, there were 19 of us, and 5 of us were new, so there had been news of 14. And 5 of us came in, and we bumped it up to 19, and this was regarded as something quite remarkable. Yeah. And, of course, that was all before the days of quotas and A-lists. We had to compete with the men on exactly the same basis as the men, I'm very pleased to say. We did not have our paths artificially smooth for us, so those of us who got in there had really wanted to get in there.
And having wanted to do it, and having got there, what was the reality like of being in Parliament? And then, climbing the ladder, and of course you became Minister for Prisons.
I did indeed become Minister for Prisons and Immigration.
And you've seen Boris's plans today, that they're all going to be out of prisons in chain gangs. It's not going to happen, is it?
I am tired of announcements coming out of the Home Office almost every 5 seconds. Pretty announces a new policy. And yet what's happened to the ones she's announced before? Where are they? Where is the action? And I did say on another programme, it reminds me of the famous epitaph, "Here lies our sovereign lord the king, whose word no man relied on. He never said a foolish thing, and he never did a wise one." That's this government.
Is Boris that bad a leader?
I think he's weak. I think he's hopelessly weak. I think his instincts actually are libertarian. If you remember right back at the beginning of this pandemic, when he was asked why he was only making staying at home advisory and not compulsory, he said, it's a land of liberty. Well, he doesn't say that now, does he? I mean, liberty has gone out of the window. And I think he's a weak leader, but he's at least 100 times as strong as Keir Starmer. So I suppose we ought to be grateful for that.
I mean, Mrs. Thatcher, of course, was there in 87 in an enormously powerful position, and you've seen it all the way through John Major and Tony Blair and of course, Michael Howard. who you're something of the night about him, did seem to rather stick with Michael Howard and didn't do him a lot of good. I mean, who's the best leader you've seen?
Oh, I think undeniably Thatcher, though I do think John Major was underestimated. Now, we may have differences with him over Europe, but I do think that as a Prime Minister, he was underestimated, and I think the judgment of future historians may be rather different from that of contemporary commentators.
And politics.
But of course, Thatcher was head and shoulders above everybody.
Yeah, until the end. And there's an end for everybody unless they decide to go at the right moment. But I mean, it's a huge roller coaster, isn't it, politics?
Oh, yes.
I mean, riding high in April,
up, one down,
shot down in May.
Yeah,
what was the low point of Ann Widdecombe's career?
Oh, I think it came in the year 2000 when I was Shadow Home Secretary, and I devised policy, which was actually passed within the party, of zero tolerance towards drugs. Now, drugs accounted, the statistics then were that they were accounting for 80% of all acquisitive crime and 30% of all crime. So if you could make an impact on drugs, you would make a big impact on crime in general.
Yeah.
And therefore I wanted a policy of zero tolerance all the way up from supply right down to soft drug usage. And that was what I proposed, with proportionate sentences.
That includes cannabis and what we call soft drugs.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I was then stabbed in the back by 6 or 7 colleagues who announced to the press that they had all taken drugs, when they were at university, and effectively they didn't regret it.
So you were left high and dry?
I was absolutely left high and dry. That was the end of it, yeah.
And when you left politics finally, you did it voluntarily.
Yeah.
You decided, you'd been the MP
I'd
for
had
Maidstone.
enough, yeah.
You'd had enough. The Brexit Party got you back into politics. But, and I know you're very fortunate in a way to live where you do.
Yeah, Dartmoor, yep.
On the edge of Dartmoor, views out over the English Channel, and I'm sure for lockdown there have been far worse places to be than home for you. But you're still out there fighting and campaigning, aren't you? Just tell us what your latest campaign is.
Free speech. I am appalled now at it's been going on for some years, but it's been really crescendoed in the last 2 or 3 years, at the way people are cancelled, have their livelihoods undermined, when they say something that displeases this actually quite small minority of people called the wokerati. But for some reason, all the institutions bow down to this minority.
Including corporate companies.
Oh, we saw it with IKEA. But it was actually quite interesting what happened there, because IKEA had been advertising on GBNews, as you know, and the woke protested and thought this was inappropriate. So what happens? They ring up and they presumably get somebody in the PR department there and speak to the managing director. And he said, no, we'll be reviewing it. But then you got what I've been longing for. You got the backlash from the non-wokerati saying, well, if you review it, we'll review our custom in IKEA. And that is what we need. We actually need those who do not like the current trends to start actively resisting.
And does the same argument apply? Because, and my feeling is that an awful lot of what is happening in schools and universities, frankly, a lot of it's near indoctrination, it seems to me. We're not teaching critical thinking. We're not saying, look, here's a problem, here are 2 solutions, you make your mind up which one you have the most respect for. How do we turn around the education system?
Well, the government is introducing law to compel universities to have free speech and with penalties if they don't and all the rest of it.
Will it be applied?
Well, whether it will be applied is one question, but the other question is why wait till universities? Education starts in the schools. And what education is supposed to do is not teach you what to think, it's supposed to teach you how to think, how to analyse, how to apply a rigorous examination. That's what it's about. And doesn't appear to be happening. So that's where they need to start.
So you will battle on with this free speech campaign?
I will absolutely battle on. I had some time ago now, a successful outing to the Oxford Union with Toby Young. And I thought that we were going to lose that because students were heavily no-platforming at the time. And in fact, we won by a vast margin. Now, the Oxford Union is different. It's always been devoted to free speech, to controversial debate. It enjoys
That's
that.
what it's there for.
And that's what it's there for.
Yes. But, you could easily have lost, as you say.
Yeah.
But, Anne, I'm interested in this because I introduced you earlier. I said you're the best-known female politician since Margaret Thatcher, and I genuinely think you are. But that isn't all because of politics, is it?
Are you thinking of a little excursion on the dance floor, possibly?
I mean, Strictly Come Dancing, and I don't know I don't know how you view your own dancing ability, but it was a sensation for you, wasn't it?
It was certainly that. There was no dancing. Anton called it many things. He never called it dancing. There was absolutely no dancing. There was comedy. High comedy.
Yes.
And that was what we went for, particularly in the Latin dances, because in the ballroom, Anton had hold of me and could sort of push and pull and mutter left, and things like this. When it came to the Latin, he used to say, from the moment he let me go, which of course you have to do in the Latin, until the moment I came back, he was never certain what would have happened in between.
Did you? I mean, you must have felt slightly self-conscious doing it.
No, not really. But I honestly did expect only to last 2 or 3 weeks. I mean, that is the honest truth. I did not expect it to sort of knock my retirement onto a completely different course, which is what it did. And I thought, I'll do this for 2 or 3 weeks. I'm bound to be eliminated very early. I can't dance. I'm tone deaf. I'm ungainly.
And the audience loved it.
And the audience just loved it.
And did you become more famous through that than you did through politics? If
the measure you use is what people say to me when they stop me in the street, then the answer is yes.
Yeah, no, I bet it is. And you've been, you got back into politics with the Brexit Party, and that was great fun and a great success. But outside of that, you're still writing, you're still doing journalism, you're still coming on TV programmes. You've been doing your tour around the country of theatres.
Yep.
And, of course, with lockdown, that's all come to a shuddering halt.
I'm doing my first tour since before the first lockdown at the end of this week. It's only 4 theatres. The audiences are going to be small because they haven't quite got back into the normal mode.
Or their confidence hasn't quite come.
Their confidence isn't there. So I'm doing it regardless of the small audiences because I think, I need to kick this off again because it hasn't happened for so long.
Yeah. So, COVID behind you, everything back to normal, Ann Widdecombe back on the road.
Well, I would like to think everything was back to normal, Nigel, and so would you.
I would, but anyway, you're going to keep carrying on. Well, that was Ann Widdecombe coming to a theatre near you soon.
Welcome to the GB News YouTube channel. You can watch us live 24 hours a day, catch up on your favourite shows, and join in the conversation in the comments below.
Don't forget to subscribe and you'll never miss any of our exclusive content.